Virtual journal. I hate you. Go hate yourself. Individuals need to take responsibility for their own thoughts and feelings. We do not need to be told how or who we can or can't hate. Most of us are not hateful people, but hate, along with love, fear, jealousy, compassion, envy, are all but drops in the ocean of the emotional human condition. The Australian government passed a law that grants them the ability to ban hate groups. What we should be noticing is a philosophical shift from objective to subjective measures of conviction our legal system is adopting. Definitions matter, and one of modernity's greatest sins is a complete dismantling of definitions and, by extension, our shared reality. I know who I hate. I know my emotional state. I don't need the state to berate and legislate who it is I hate or their traits. This new law defines hate as speech that a member of a protected group may feel uncomfortable by. It actually says is intimidated by, but functionally, they're talking about discomfort. This shifts the metric of conviction away from the speaker's intention and over to if someone claims to be made to feel inferior. Made to feel inferior. Have you considered that maybe in some instances what you're doing is morally inferior and should be worth criticism? I'm not saying that's always the case, but how are we meant to distinguish it now if the power is in the subjective individual's perception of what's being spoken? The real crime here is that this is a brutal intrusion into our most sacred space, our minds. And the switch in which criticism, coming sometimes from a place of compassion and care, are irrelevant in the face of a potentially cynical or at best emotionally unintelligent individual in a group receiving the critique. And now, time for some reductio ad absurdum, a thought experiment. If we welcomed an uncontrolled tribe into our country that only allowed its women to crawl on all fours and had perverted rite of passage rituals for its young girls and boys, can you see where I'm going here? Criticizing this could and will be used against the loving individuals who have the courage to speak up against acts that are morally reprehensible. This is not hyperbolic, it's not an exaggeration. By definition, if that was a real scenario that came into Australia and that individual felt intimidated by your hate speech, you can be litigated. This is actually here. Not all cultures are exactly the same. We don't all value the same thing, and that's okay. The beauty of Australia is that we get to amalgamate the best versions of ourselves and our cultures to be Australian. This can't be done if a manufactured, cold governmental arm is inserting itself in our psyche. This aims to convince us that everything is 100% the same, all groups value the exact same thing, all groups are equally good. I'm not saying groups are bad, but there's a reality that we don't all value the same things. To assume everything is exactly the same means we can't actually learn and grow from each other. Now, look, I'm personally taking this to offense because I'm not a hateful person, but there are instances where I can be impolite and I can intimidate someone or make them uncomfortable about a behavior or a trait if it feels appropriate, just as I'd hope people would do the same for me. There are genuinely hateful people out there, though. There are people who hate themselves and relate to the world through hatred. Not sure what their childhood consisted of, but some people relate through chaos and destruction. We do need to disincentivize this behavior, whether it's alienation or like jail or rehabilitation. But unless someone's actually committed an act or a crime, there aren't any thought crimes. This whole thing should be operating on like uh, a social level. Not everything needs to be legislated. We don't like big government. Seriously, we don't like big government. Not everything, not our, they're literally legislating our thoughts. And you should have seen this coming after they tried to impose a novel thing into our body during those years that shall not be named. Because I get striked on YouTube now if I say the, the virus. But the point here is that we need to do this on a group on the ground level, not some randoms in a room I don't know where it is, who I didn't actually vote for, wearing suits that don't actually that are ugly. No, wearing suits and that don't actually represent me. Sorry, I've gone off script. The individual is the smallest group, and thoughts, words, behaviors make up that character. How we interface and collectively agree on norms is our culture. Attempting to legislate my thoughts and critiques of behaviors and cultural norms that I, dare I say, hate is simply not happening. Australia says no. Our ancestors who didn't feel aversion, who didn't discriminate or hate dangerous patterns, never made it down the chain of evolution. Survival rewards discernment, it rewards critique and caution, not this performative hypercompassion we're all forced to dance with. Now, dystopian and draconian government aside, this is an insult to our individual agency as adults. It flips innocent until proven guilty to its converse and attempts to force the adults in a room to tiptoe around individuals or groups who have not yet learned our superior way of emotional regulation. Words are not violence. Words are not violence. Words are not violence. Nobody is owed being in a positive state at all times. As we're individuals exploring self development, growth doesn't usually occur while we're in a state of hyper happiness and overflow of energy. Usually, it's moments of criticism or a harsh, humbling experience that makes you actually stop, look inwards for a bit, reevaluate your relationship with the world, with yourself, your values you have, and how you plan to show up in the world. Deleting the utility of honest dialogue is a formula to deconstruct our society. We have distorted our view of what a human being is, as though we are the only ones with depth and consciousness, whilst anyone who disagrees with our political inclinations are two dimensional or too reducible in the intellect to possibly see the world our way. It is distance with our assumptions projected onto people or groups that can cause us to fight with demons in our own mind, as opposed to forming relations with the people in our life or our neighbors. I hope, does that make sense? The solution to all of this is the very thing the law is banning under the guise of compassion. Our ability to talk to each other, our ability to laugh with each other, to kind of poke at each other, our ability for open dialogue and expression of thought. The solution is to keep talking and to aim to not other the other while we do so. You are not your thoughts. We've all experienced a moment of realization where we noticed the thought you have, or the feeling, or the belief you had was actually inserted from the environment or somewhere that wasn't you. This is normal. This is human. This usually happens with good intention from our idols, from our parents and tribes, from influences. And with this, and a part of being human, is deciphering our internal state, the child within, with the external state and the information that we've gotten as we grow up and get conditioned, and filtering what is me and what isn't me in all the modes of being I have. This premise assumes internal innocence. To accept a policing of our thoughts from some entity that assumes we're malevolent in intention will slowly erode our sense of self and tear our social fabric apart. Our civilization no longer lives amongst the brutality of nature, but that doesn't mean we do not remain vigilant and aware. Words and thoughts are models of the journey we are experiencing. It's like we have the terrain, and the government is changing the map on the terrain that we're on. They're dictating which neural paths or valleys we're allowed to explore in the landscape of our own minds. Remember to spend time in your aloneness. You are not your thoughts. If we can form a strong enough relationship with ourselves, we may just notice when an intrusion has entered our minds. Understanding our internal emotional state, maintaining strict boundaries, and open dialogue with good intention may just be the antidote to this dystopian law that has been introduced. I hope you enjoyed that. As always, if you did enjoy that, if you did like it, like the video, tell me that you did. If you leave a comment, I will reply. So please leave a comment down below. Am I losing my mind here? Am I overreacting? I don't think I'm overreacting with this. And especially with like this podcast or my experience, I'm just actually scared, honestly, safe space. Now the video's done. Now we're actually talking. Now we're for realsies. It's me. Um, I don't think I'm going to get locked up, but what if I do? Like, I genuinely have thoughts that can be deemed intimidating. Like, I have good intentions, but that really doesn't matter anymore. So that's why this really affects me so much. So tell me if I'm overreacting or if you truly see it the way I do. Leave a comment. And stay tuned for the next video. I will get more comfortable on screen. I like this idea of reading from the book that way, or my journal. Sorry, it's all there. Um, I am really struggling to talk directly to the camera, so at least this maybe I can start to form the relationship with the camera through the journal, because that's what this is. This is a virtual journal. And quick caveat, I will let you go. I'm sorry. This is captured online. My thoughts are subject to change. So please just be mindful. I may change my mind on this in the future. I hope to be consistent intellectually and morally, but these thoughts are subject to change. So comment, like, subscribe. Take care of yourself.